when I'm looking at rounding to the nearest 10, I have the choice of letting it rest, meaning that it's going to stay at 0, or I can raise the score by 1 and it's going to become, and I'm going to round up to a 1. I have to make that decision. There's two ways we've talked about it: looking at the number line or looking at the place to the right. Okay. So remember, when I look at this, I'm going to look at the place over to the right. So I'm going to look at my ones place to decide whether to let it rest or raise the score. Okay. Remember, what numbers do I let it rest on? We say blank or less, let it rest. Does anybody remember what that is? If that digit in the place to the right is 4 or less, we let it rest. If it's 5 or more, we raise the score. So Corbin, when we look at the ones place over here, when we look at the ones place, is that telling us to raise the score or is that telling us to let it rest?
Rest.
Remember, 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. So raise the score, right? So we're going to raise the score to 1. We're going to change it to 110. And if you remember, that means that everything after that becomes a 0. Do we need to put our 700s there? Yes or no? Just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, everybody. Does the 700s need to go in front of the 10s? Everybody give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Right now I see CJ and I see Cynthia and I see Alex J. Yeah, the 700 needs to go there. So to the nearest 10, our answer is 710. If we look at it on a number line, we're saying we either are leaving it at 700 or we're rounding up to 710 in the tens place, right? My number right in the middle of those is what? Alejandro, what number is directly in the middle, right between 700 and 710?
708.
705 is right in the middle, right? So then I'm looking at 708. I know that that's more than 705, probably right in here. So that's 708. I can clearly see it's closer to 710 than it is to 700. Right? That's the nearest 10. Now let's look at the nearest 100. All right, nearest 100. So for the nearest 100, what digit am I going to look at, Alex J? Am I looking at rounding the 7, the 0, or the 8?
The 7.
The 7, right? Because it's in what place? What place is that 7 in? The ones, tens, or hundreds?
Hundreds.
So my 7's in the 100s place. So I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to let it rest at 7 or raise the score to 8. I have to make that decision. So on this one, Derek, I'm going to look over here at the tens place, which is a 0, right? So does that 0, Derek, remember, 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score. Does that 0, Derek, tell me I need to let the 7 rest, or do I need to raise the score? Remember, 4 or less, let it rest. 5 or more, raise the score.
Raise the score.
Why do you say raise the score?
Because in the tens place, it got a 0.
Right. And is a 0, does that 4 or less, or is that 5 or more?
Less.
Less. So 4 or less, let it rest. So we're going to let that 7 rest at 7, 700s, and then we have 2 zeros, right? And our answer is 700. Now, if we look at it on a number line, same thing. We're deciding, do I have 700s or do I have 800s? Cynthia, what number is right in the middle of 700 and 800?
750.
750. 708 is clearly way closer to 700, right? 708 is right here. So it's clearly closer, and we decide we round to 700. All right. Again, I know rounding is challenging. We haven't done much of it. We just started this week. We're going to continue working on that throughout these next few weeks. All right. Our goal is to get better at this as we move on. Looking at our goal today. See who's here. Christian, can you read today's goal for us, please?
Using starter problems to help us solve larger and more difficult math problems.
Okay, thank you, sir. So today we're going to look at using what we call starter problems, which can be a helpful tool in helping us get started on solving some more difficult problems and can help us with starting a strategy that we want to use to solve a problem. All right. So we're going to look at the problem 296 plus 468. All right. And before we even get the answer or work on that problem, I want you to somebody give me a reasonable estimate, meaning what do we think is going to be about the answer? What do we think is going to be close to the actual answer? Asil, what do you think is going to be close to the actual answer on this problem? Doesn't have to be exactly right. Just ballpark, like neighborhood, what's going to be close to the actual answer? Asil, are you there? Okay, let's go to Ying. Ying, what do you think is going to be close to the answer? It doesn't have to be exact, but what do you think is going to be close to the answer?
An answer that is close to the actual answer.
Yeah, so I'm saying we're looking at this problem right here. 296 plus 468. If I said, what do you think is going to be close? What's about the answer to that problem you think? I'm not asking you to actually solve it, but if I just said, what do you think is going to be close to the actual answer, what would you say?
Maybe 700.
700, okay. Why did you say 700?
Because in the 296, it has a 96. And if you add 4 more, it's 300. And for the 400, for the tens it's 60 and the ones it's 8. So I think if the 200 was an actual 300, it would be a 700.
Okay, thank you. So if you guys couldn't hear what she said, she was saying 296 is really close to 300. So if we say there's 300s here, plus a 400 right there, that's 700, plus we'll have leftovers, right? So starter problems are problems that help us get started on the strategies. All right, so I want you to take a look. They're right down here at the bottom. I want to talk about why they work. All right, 296 plus 400. That's basically how we would start with adding in chunks, right? We're taking one of the actual numbers from the problem, 296, and then we're taking the 400s from the second part and adding them to get us started. Then we'll deal with the leftover 68 later, right? The second starter problem, where do you see 200 and where do you see 400 in the original problem? Corbin, when we look at 200 plus 400 and we look up at that original problem, 296 plus 468, where do we see 200 and 400 in the original problem?
In the hundredth place?
Yeah, in the hundreds place. So we're just adding the hundreds place from both numbers to start on that one. And here is the interesting one. 300 plus 468. We're basically doing what Ying just said. She noticed when she estimated, right? Ying is saying, I noticed that 296 is close to 300. So instead, we're going to start at 300. We're going to talk a lot about all three of these here in just a second. Right now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And on your whiteboards, all I want you to do is to solve all three starter problems, okay? Just solve the starter problems. So 296 plus 400 200 plus 400, and 300 plus 468. I'm giving you 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and then we're moving on. Go. You guys have a little more than 1 minute left. Oh, all right, let's get back together here. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next page here where we have the problems. So I'm going to start with the starter problems. 296 plus 400. That's kind of hard to see. Hang on, let me. So 296 plus 400. Anybody can unmute and tell me, what did you get for 296 plus 400? Just go ahead and unmute and tell me. Anybody?
You said how much is that?
We should have been spending the last 2.5 minutes working on the starter problems. This is one of those starter problems. If you know the answer, unmute and tell me the answer to 296 plus 400.
696.
Thank you, Alejandro. 696. All right. The other one, which should be very easy, was 200 plus 400. Somebody unmute and tell me the answer there.
600.
Thank you, Derek. 600. And the last one was 300 plus 468.
768.
All right. There's those three answers. All right. So let's talk now about how we can use those three problems to get ourselves started on solving the real problem. All right. So 296 plus 400. I've got 696. I have already accounted for what? What part of my main equation, my original problem, have I already done? CJ, if I've done 296 plus 400, what part of my original problem have I already done?
296 plus 400.
I've done the 296 plus the 4 in the hundreds place, right? So now I have to account for the 68, right? So I've got to go from 696 and add in 68, okay? Hang on just a second. So I think the way I like to do that is just add the 60 and 8 one at a time. So I'm going to say 696 I'm going to add in my 60. 6 ones plus 0 ones is 6. I go and I do 9 tens plus 6 tens. I get 15 tens. And I have 756. Then I'm going to add in my 8 more. And that gets me to 764. Now, oh my goodness, sorry. When I look at that, my 296 is right here. My 400s are right here. My 60 is right here, and my 8 ones are down there. So really what I just did is add in chunks. I just looked at the starter problem to help me get started. All right, looking at the next starter problem, I'm gonna go ahead and clear that one out. 200 plus 400. Alex J, I want you to talk me through this one. Alex J, what have I already done from my original problem?
You already done. You already done.
When I look at my original equation, 296 plus 468, what have I already added? We're looking at this one right here. I'm talking to Alex J. Alex J, what have I done so far?
You already added 200 and 400.
Yeah, I did the hundreds place, right? So I'm going to come down here. I have 200 plus 400. Alex J, what strategy is this starting me with? What's this strategy called? Do you remember? I'm adding by what?
By
Place value. Right? Adding my place value. So then what am I going to do next, Alex J?
you're gonna add the 2 with the 4.
I already did that, right? I added my 200 and 400. What's my next step?
Next step is
I go to my tens place. So what's that 9 mean?
90,
Yep. Plus,
60.
yep. And for time's sake, that equals 150. And then what's my last step, Alex J?
Add the ones.
Yep, which is 6 plus,
8.
yep. And that gives me 14. I get 764. So that's that one. Now here's the last one. This is my favorite because if you know how to do this, this saves you so much time. All right. So I have 300 plus 468 equals 768. I need a brave risk taker to tell me how is this problem similar or related to the actual problem in the that we're looking at the top. Marvin.
It's just that that you
Marvin, let's start this way. Is there anything that's the same in the starter problem and the original problem? When I look down here, if I look down here at the starter problem, is there anything that you see that's the same as the problem up at the top? There's one thing that's the same. What is it? Cynthia, help them out. What's the same?
The 2.
Yeah, the what?
only
Hang on. Say that one more time, Cynthia.
The 200.
Where do you see the 200 in there? Do you see a 200 anywhere in here? Down here at the bottom?
No.
What number is the exact same in our problem, in our equation? And both. Alex J.
The 468.
Yeah, 468. It's right here. It's right here. That's the exact same. So here's where it gets a little tricky. I have 300. What is my original problem is 296. Why would somebody change that from 296 to 300? Why would somebody change that in the problem from 296 to 300? Why would somebody do that? I'll wait all day till somebody wants to step up and talk about it. Why would somebody change that 296 to 300 in that problem?
Because the 68 from 468, if you're going to add that to the 200 is going to turn to 300 because you're adding, and it was at 296.
Okay. Guys, the very simple, and you're on the right track, CJ. The simple answer to this is that 300 is just way more friendly, right? It's way easier when I add 300 because I really only have to worry about the hundreds place, because the ones place and the tens place become zeros, and I can just keep that at 68. So here's the deal. What did I do to change 296 to 300? What did I have to do to change it? What was added or taken away or whatnot to make it 300? What did I do? This is where it's tricky, okay? Essentially, I added 4 to one of those numbers to make it friendly, right? So when I have this answer, is that the correct final answer to the problem? The original problem. Is 768 the correct answer to my original problem up at the top? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Is 768 the correct answer to the original problem? I want every single person on camera right now to give me a thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, so I'm a little worried. Okay, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, because we just did 2 other strategies to solve this problem, and we did not get 768. We got 764. All right, so how could this be? Now look, so basically what you're saying is, when you give me a thumbs up, is you're saying that this answer, you're saying, I'm going to be right this way. You're telling me that 296 plus 468 and 300 plus 468 have the exact same answer. Do those have the exact same answer? No, right? We had to add 4 to make 300. So if we added 4, what does that tell us about our answer of 768? If we had to add 4 to one number, what does that tell us about our answer over there? Is it too big or is it too small? Anybody can unmute and tell me what you think. Is that answer going to be too big or too small?
Too small.
Too big, right? Because we added 4 to one side. So that answer is 4 too big. So now we have to take away 4 to make up for what we did to make it easier. So now I'm going to subtract 4 and I get 764, right? So if I change one number, whatever I did to that one of those numbers, I have to make up for it and do the opposite, okay? So a good way to look at it is, we're going to look at this next one right here. All right, is my original problem was 597 plus 375. One of my students, this was a strategy they used last year. So what they said is, I want to make it more friendly. So if you can see, they changed 597 to 600. All right. So what they did was they added 3 and made this 600. Right. Well, then to make up for that, they said, if I'm adding 3 on this side, what are they going to do over here on this side? If they're adding 3 to one number, what are they going to do the other one? Cynthia?
Take away 3.
Yeah, they're going to take away 3 to balance it out. So they're going to, if they're adding 3 here, and they take away 3 here, that's going to give us the same problem, just with different numbers. So then they do 372. So when I add those together, I get 972. When I add those top 2 numbers up here, I get 972. So that's just one way you can do it. If you want to make one number friendly, whatever you do to that number, you could do the opposite to the other one. So like if I wanted to make it on a very simple one, let's say I had the problem 17 plus 8. Right? And I don't know the math for that, and I don't want to take time. I could add 3 and make this 20, and then I can take that 3 away and make this 5, and I get 25. And that's the answer to 17 plus 8, right? So if I change one side, I've got to make up for it, either at the end of the problem or I can change another number. All right? When you go out to work today, your job is going to be a quick activity on Canvas. It is called 1-13 addition starter problems. All right. You have four problems to solve. The first problem is the main one. Okay. But you're going to solve the 3 starter problems first. And then you're going to go back to number 1 and solve number 1. All right. Put the final answer. This is page 271 in your workbook. So if you just want to solve them in the workbook and then post a picture of your work, that's fine with me. All right. For each problem. That's probably easier. You have 3 sets. And then the last one says, why is it helpful to use starter problems? How can they help you solve a more difficult addition problem? You get 3 points for explaining that. All right. After you finish, you have 2 choices. You can do Dreambox or there's addition challenge problems. So you can do these harder problems for bonus points. Every one of these you get right is a bonus point. It cannot hurt your grade. So if you solve all 4 and you get 1 right, you get 1 bonus point. If you solve all 4 and you get 3 right, you get 3 bonus points. You do not have to do the challenge problems. That's a choice. You have to do the addition starter problems, all right, which are on this page right here. Page 271, all right? Does anybody have any questions about your job today? Okay, I'm going to take a few people with me to a breakout room to work on